Welcome back, everyone. In the last episode, I set up my scene, imported the blueprints, imported the scan data, scaled everything to the correct size, and put my ref images into PureRef as well. Since then, I have scoured the webs looking for more reference, and actually noticed that the Tamiya model that I'm using for the scan reference is not very accurate. It's too narrow, and I think it has some issues with some of the details in the body panels as well. But when I compare it with a lot of the reference, it kind of differs from car to car, almost. So I managed to find the original factory blueprints they used for the car, and I think that's going to be my best bet. I really like that they have the C-section showing here in the blueprint as well. So I think what I'm going to do now, as this is the first part of the modeling process, I'm going to switch out the blueprints from the Tamiya blueprints to the factory blueprints, and then make some spline cage as a reference, which is the usual thing I do when I model cars. I like to have some good reference in the perspective view when I model. I do not like modeling in the orthographic views back and forth. I want to see the volumes and the proportions directly. So that's what I'm going to do now. Start with changing out the blueprints. The side. I'm gonna name them as well. Side view, side, top, and front. They all use the same image, so it doesn't really matter. I start with I'm gonna have to adjust it. Actually, I think it's quicker to remake them. So I am recording this in one go, so you're gonna see mistakes and brain farts and everything, which is kind of good. I want to highlight that even if I'm a professional, I'm not prone to being perfect in any way. Start with the side view like we did last time, so we get the correct size. We had 241. That was the wheelbase. Scanned. Scaled this. to there. Good. Oh, I'm also gonna mention that I added a on-screen keyboard down here for anyone who wanna see the buttons I press. I'm not sure if you are going to keep up all the button pressing, but if you find it useful, it's there. So here you can see slight discrepancy here in the shape of the vehicle, and I think I'm gonna trust the factory blueprint in this case. That's the side view. The top view. I'm lining up the center here with the center of the grid. I took this into Photoshop earlier and made sure that all the views are straight. Should have kept that box again. 241. Slightly off. That's the middle, it lines up good with the box. Very happy with that. Let's make the again line up the middle of the blueprint here. That, make sure that the ground level as well. There we go. Now I'm going to delete my layer that I created before, and I'm going to create two layers. One is going to be named L_blueprints, and another one named L_scan_data, so that I can turn them on and off individually. Put the scan data in here. Now that's locked. Change names on the blueprints again. This one actually had a rear view, so I'm gonna set that up as well. Call it rear. Have to create a new camera. This is the view. This is the side. This top. Great. Once again, line them up. So, here we go. Back view. All of them in the blueprints folder. Assign them to the blueprint layer. Should be good to go. Go. Front view, side view, and top view. Right, at this stage I'm going to hide the scan data, and now I will start making those curves, NURBS curves for 3D reference. So I'm actually going to start with the front view and just trace each of these C-section lines, and then we're going to spread them out side view so that they line up good with the profile of the car. So I usually use Bezier curves or CV curves. I think in this case I'm gonna start with Bezier. Oops, that one inside out. Really hard to see now, so I'm actually going to go into my blueprints and make them a bit more transparent so that it's easier to see background. This. Snapping these to center. Then it's just a matter of manipulating these. Always when I work with curves, the middle point that is going to mirror over to the other side, this handle should never go above starting point. That means it's going to be a dip down. Always trying to keep it level or slightly below the point. We have this one. Good. Now I can copy this. Scale these out. Just the midpoints. Blueprint is not super high res, so I'm not going to have that precision, super precision, but I can tell from the other curves that they're kind of sharper turn up here, and then somewhere around this point here, this line, they start to curve in sharper. Anyway, this is just for quick reference when I model, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Copy that one. Do the same thing. Scale it out. And see that it starts to differ a bit here. I think I'm gonna add a point, so I get one control point here. Another one here. This way we can have two different tangents on the curve. Pretty good. Move on to the next one. And go back just this one. We move on. If you guys have any suggestions for if you want me to do this in a different way, just comment. Try to adjust. This line here that ends up at the suspension arm, that's probably gonna be the center of the arm. Like the center of the wheel here. We've almost done the nose cone. Good. So we can see now that it starts to... the bottom of the car is flat. So have a look at the reference here. Or actually we can just look at the scan data. You can see that it goes from being very round here in the front to being sharper and sharper and sharper, and here it starts to be really flat. That's what we see in these section lines here. That means we should add another control point here. That a bit tighter. And make sure that it's keeps more flat here. A bit bigger. Like that. Selection. One is gonna be a bit special. One with the layered out the part. We just keep adding control points whenever we need. Start simple and move the more complex stuff. And this part here looks like a complete mash of lines, but they are... if we look at it, the car is, I think, at its widest around the driver sits. And again, this is just to verify differences between the scan data, the Tamiya model, and the factory blueprints. I'm probably gonna have to choose somewhere in between the two, and that's okay. Nothing is perfectly made in real life anyway, so especially these old cars tend to have very loose tolerances when it comes to body panels. They are hand formed, riveted in place. You can see it here, big thick rivets. It's a bit forgiving. You want to make sure that you don't add too many points, because then it's going to be hard to control the shape of the curve. Starts to flatten out a bit at the top as well. Okay, so I feel like spreading these out now, so I'm gonna take the center one, which is gonna be front. We can see here that the innermost part is actually behind one that is furthest out. I think it's this one is gonna be in the front. And it also has a curve to it, so we need to those lines as well. That. When we do that, we need to make sure that it's rotated correctly as well. I think that's enough for now. Then we want this inner part to follow the same curvature. Basic. That one. And then we move on. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm moving it forward and I'm looking at this edge here where it meets the blueprint. That's where I stop it basically. I think it's somewhere around. Move it back and forth later as well. And this one is probably somewhere around here. Not on that side, so I'm gonna mirror it over. Yeah, you can see it. It's probably this rear one here. And both back to that point. And if I mirror these now, we can start to see the volume take shape. Would like to the same changes to this one. We don't have, so it looks a bit better. Double check. That's probably gonna have to go a bit. I think it's meant to end up at this point here. There's a slight match. Doesn't matter really. Keep going. Just to mix it up, I'm gonna do the side profile this time. Here we can actually see that I was completely off. Should have looked at this view as well. But just that. No biggie. Like that. Something is a bit off with the side view, so just a blueprint, I think. This is always the problem with blueprints. These ones are probably hand drawn. You can't expect everything to line up perfectly. But I think if we do the profile view now, we can make them match each other in kind of midway point. It's gonna be good enough, I think. We're gonna need two. One here. Then this one. Another one. So I do spend a little bit of time doing this, even if it feels like maybe it's a waste of time. I found that when it comes to modeling later, this is helping me a whole lot. So spending 1 hour in the beginning to plan out and make sure that you learn the car. Basically what you do when you do this. You understand the shapes and the curves and everything. It's gonna make it quicker for you later on. So you might save 50 hours in the end. Good. That's a good profile view, profile line. Now we can see that it's off here. The distance between sections of the profile. Could be that I placed these at the wrong place as well. I would guess that they, in real life, they kept a somewhat uniform distance between them. That makes it pretty good. Oh, we can see here that it lines up with this dotted line, which is the inside see-through. That's good. So looking at this blueprint, I think the left side, the top view, the right side is more like you cut away the top of the car so that you see the beneath, basically. See this tube going in here inside, which is this big one here. Continuing on with the side profile. The window here, kind of an odd one. In some pictures they have the top part of the cockpit here transparent, and the images have it painted as well. Not sure which one I like. Pretty cool to have transparent stuff in renders, so I might go with that. Don't really have to settle on anything right now. But going to draw. That's an open area, so it's the side profile line is gonna stop here. It's gonna continue up here and do that. Basically, it's a straight line. We have a straight line down here, like that. And we can go to the top and draw the opening. this. Adjusting it. Again, make sure that these are straight. Select both of them and just, or maybe not. Thought it was possible to scale them. No siree, Bob. Okay. Good. See from the side view, we have any? There's a slight curve to it here, so let's see what happens when we bring this up. So we wanted to start where the side profile stopped, basically. Same thing here. I don't really care about these small discrepancies here. Going to grab two ones pointing to the end, bring that down, side view, that, and I think there's a slight curve to it, so I am going to add another point here in the middle. Be a very tiny curve to it. So, and we can continue with these ones. And down like this, and we want to rotate them Z direction until they match, basically. Over here. And again, the blueprint is a bit off, but I'm gonna trust the top view, this one I think. Just make this look good here. Probably gonna follow this. What happens if we bring this like that? Gonna look wonky in the top view, so do that. But I think that's a pretty good curve in the rear. Do the same thing here. I need to bring it down, rotate it, that it matches the curvature here, which is pretty good now. Top view, it looks okay. So, pretty smooth curve. I'm going to mirror that over. Look pretty cool. We have some more of these section lines to draw, but as you can see, the ref images here, the body is very much the same shape. Slightly bulging around the driver. That's going to be a quick one. I'm going to use this right here. That. And I think I'm I'm going to make the widest one and then place that wherever go. Out there. Do well, and let's and look at the top view. Very hard to tell, but I think the thickest part might be here. It's really hard to tell. But it might be. Must be somewhere in between, because if we put it right by the window here, windscreen, it's way too high. Put back here, it's way too low. So I think somewhere in between. Maybe even in the middle. We create a box. The box where the car ends. See that it's the widest right here. And somewhere around here. B2. About that, but it does end up somewhere in the ballpark there. Pretty happy with. So we can copy that one. Absolute last piece, which is bolted onto the engine basically. This in a bit, it's straight. And here we can see that they drew the car completely flat in the front view, but in the side view it has a bit of a rake to it, so it's tilted forward. Might explain why these things here in the front didn't line up very well. I think I'm going to rotate that blueprint, the side blueprint a bit. Use a box to just line it up. I think I want the front wheel to touch the ground still, but we want to rotate. You can see how much the car is raked. This is where it starts to become flat in the bottom. The rear part is way up there. So I am going to use this point here as my pivot. And I'm going to rotate the car down so it sits flat. Like that. That's of course going to change the curves that we made, but I think that's good in the end. Do that. Let's revisit the curves that we made before. Make sure that they line up with the blueprint now. There's quite a bit of a difference now. Readjust everything. Especially in the front here, which lines up pretty good now with the other ones. The side profiles, or front profiles. Make adjustments. Make sure I grab both of the curves since I have that one mirrored. That's starting to look very good. I think. Let's see how this lines up now. Do we need to bring this down? And this looks a lot better now. Yep. And now we can actually see that the widest part is no longer where we thought it was. Bring this. Somewhere around there. Mirror that over, so you went on. I think we lost some of the shape here. Not the a lot of back and forth and just readjusting things, but in the end I think it's really worth it. The side view doesn't match up perfectly again, but that's fine. We can go in and add curve point here. Let's trim this down. that. I think one more section line will be enough because it's such a similar shape all the way. I like to look at cars from a very grazing angle here to see how the curves look. Also change the camera to something a bit more telephoto. This 30mm is on the limit of wide angle, which is gonna skew perspective a bit, or the proportions. So I usually have it at 50 or 85 to give the view some compression. Show the true shapes without any distortions. I think that looks good. Bit too. Bit like this one. I'm gonna bring this out a tiny bit so it matches better. Be good enough. And that feels like a pretty good hub right there. We could go in and add some curves along the side here. I feel that this is such a simple shape. Probably not gonna need that. I'm more worried about the area around the suspension here. It's I don't really trust the scan data. It looks very small compared to this area around here. Too small compared to the real one. But I'm not really sure. See that it doesn't match profiles that we did, so we can go in and see if we can get up a bit. But again, it doesn't have the same shape, so it's gonna be hard to make this match anyway. I will probably use the scan data more for looking at like how all the intricate geometry in the suspension work. And I also have the model in front of me on the desk here, so I can have a look at that as well. So it's still very valuable reference. Just not so much for accurate modeling. Right. So I would like to add, there's a seam here where the nose cone attached. See that here? I would like to add that part as well as curves, just so I know where everything starts and ends. Sure if that's in here. Yeah, it's probably this line here. Oh, probably shown right here. Have to make sure to look at references a lot. Looks like it flattens out across here, straight across. Then on the sides we have the opening, the suspension as well, which we can see here, this line here. It's gonna be really tricky to line up perfectly, so super necessary to do it now. If I do it later on when I have a base mesh around here, I could project curves onto it. It's gonna help with the when I cut it out later. Okay. Just trying to think what the next step will be. Thinking if I should model the whole of the car, the body panels in one go and then cut them out, or if I should treat them like separate pieces. I think separate pieces because this is an old car, and in real life they would have hand formed every panel individually, which gives it a bit more realistic variance, like in the reflections. They're not supposed to line up perfectly. So. Yes, I think that's the way to go. Model them separately. But again, this part is a bit of a mystery to me now, so I'd probably mock up some of the suspension geometry so I know where it sits, because it's very obvious that the top suspension arm, making this round shape, is basically ending where the top suspension arm fits in the chassis. From there, if I have this point, I know the curvature of the part here that is going to intersect with the body panels. It's going to make it a lot easier. So in this blueprint we have that point right here. I could just create a simple cylinder. Follows the curves nicely. Line it up side view. We know that it's gonna end here and I'm gonna drag it over and see. That big, okay. So what we could do is, that's probably a straight cut from above. So we know that this side it's going to be the same shape as this side. We'd copy this curve, move it over here. Probably going to be the same shape. Since this panel is lying somewhat over the other one, probably gonna be a slight bit flatter here. And I think I'm gonna focus on the lower part first, so move on. Delete that one. Top. See here that we have like that. Going to mirror that over. Move it up, and that's gonna meet. These two should join together here. It's not supposed to be 90-degree corner there, but that later. We could just move this as well. Fix it basically. This would have to adjust a bit, compensate for that. Still keep that nice curve. And I think that's gonna be good enough. They don't have to sit together perfectly either. So. Now we have this line going down here, and we want that to follow the curve here. Reuse the ones that we have and just pull them out like this. Remove some of them and just adjust it to fit what we need in this case. I'm doing it one view at a time. It's a bit easier. I want to add one here. A good shape. Let's see what it looks like. Now it's all over the place if you look at it from the front. But that's... oh. This is where it's going to be tricky to line this up, since it's going to be a cutout of the body panel. It's going to be hard to exactly know where to put it, but we're going to give it a shot like. Most important thing here is that we have a reference line in the side view. Start to model. Probably gonna follow that thing that sticks out for the arm. Oh, maybe not. I think we need to add another point here. We can have it follow the side. Might be one of the hardest things making cars. It's understanding the shape you're trying to model, especially when you're going from side view to front view, the top view and then out to perspective and try to juggle that in your mind, understanding all the shapes. Now, if we look from the front, I think this is supposed to go. Something like this, so that it smooths out shape a bit. I'm not gonna spend any more time on that right now, but at least we have thing there. Here that over. Have this one. We're starting to see progress on that. I think the next step would be to model the whole tub. Try to mock up these shapes here to see what they look like, then bring them together with the body panels, and then we can start cutting out the final shape. So I'm going to start modeling. In this case, it's I'm thinking from big down to small, so simple to complex, and this looks like a cylinder to me, the whole car, so that's what I'm going to start with. And I don't, when it comes to number of segments, it really comes down to what kind of details I want to cut out later. I want the geometry to have enough geometry to support the details, but I don't want too much because it's going to be hard to keep it simple or clean. But if we look at just gonna try. I'm gonna start with what we had here. It's 16, I think. Go from the front and scale it down. And I can instantly see that this is there are too many points to tweak right here. So I'm gonna start over with something simpler. Let's take 8. Delete the cap. Now. Then it's just a matter of starting to... I can line them up with the curves that I had, but before I forget, I'm gonna create a new layer for my curves. I'm going to put them in a group. Put the group inside of the reference folder. But one good thing with the curves is that I can use them to snap to. I can quickly find the points where I want to create my geometry, basically. So I'm not using the curves to model, but I do use them as reference for where to place things sometimes. When I smooth this, it's gonna become smaller, so I'm gonna have to adjust it anyway. Just want to make sure that we are the lines that we want to be. Because the shape of the profile here, it gets a bit tighter around this area here. That's where we want more. We want the edges to be closer to each other, basically. This is probably gonna be a bit too few control points. Let's see here. See that it has a natural kind of flow here to the curves. We want to match that with our topology. So we come up a bit. I know now that they are here. Actually, it's probably simpler to just do this. Then put it down later. Maybe not. Let's try it. Try it. We're going to need one more loop here. Bring this up. Probably too few, we need at least one more, I think. Starting to look like a good number. Now we have enough to make the shape that we want. Not too much to keep track of. So now I moved the points so that these edges are pointing outwards, towards like the curvature of the vehicle. This one a bit up. And now I can start looking at the side. Just go over roughly here and line up a bit better. Create quick material here, make it look a bit more interesting. Might be too early to put reflections on, but it's always nice to see, so I'm gonna give it reflective color. Let's see, environment sphere. You can put an HDRI in there. I usually use my HDRI that I shot myself, so I know the location, what it looks like. I can take that. And give it slightly darker color so it contrasts a bit better with the background. We could even give it racing green kind of look. That will give us a very good reference for the curvature. And the specular color, we can bring that up as well. If we want it to look metallic, we can give this specular color a bit of a color like that. That looks pretty cool. So that's the first section. Now it's just a matter of continue this. Start aligning it. Since these sections are flat, it's going to be very quick to align, I think. I'm gonna put the two sides together, so to make the front a bit easier by just scaling it in. Looking for a nice continuity on the edges when I adjust them, so that they don't end up like this skewed and wonky. What we can do, this curve here, add curve points so that I can see the curvature here of the nose, basically. Make this into a Bezier corner, bring it in like so. That way we can see the shape. And it goes deeper inside as well, but this part is like the curvature part. You can actually see the the curvature here in the blueprint. That's super nice. Should probably adjust to that instead. Cool. This accordingly so that it ends up inside. Do this, it's be a nice shape that we follow. So you can see that I started getting my curves like in between the front and side view, just so that I can have nice average, basically. Let's get here. Now I know that this line here delete half of it again so that I don't have to go out the other side. Just shape. This is why it's so nice to have curves. You can be in the perspective view and just make sure that everything lines up with the curves very quickly instead of going between different views back and forth. And here you can see when I smooth the model, it goes. I have such few edges or so little geometry. Doesn't keep the shape very well when I smooth it. I would need to add but that's gonna make this it's gonna make this one to keep the shape too much. So what I think we need to do is either we have to adjust this out, then it's gonna become sharper, which we don't want. We need to add more geometry in here basically. Gonna add it close to the rear one and then just move it straight out. And then I can start adjusting it again. Sure that line follows. That. Ways off. I'm gonna do it the same thing to the outside. I'm gonna notice now that we're starting to get a bit closer. We'll need this. Make sure to scale from the center, otherwise destroy the shape. We can start bringing this a bit forward. It's still a bit off. Or like that. This part here needs to be scaled down. That. Starting to look like something. I think we have an issue here, not very round on it. That's because these two edges are too close to each other, so we need to bring this forward a tiny bit. And adjust like that. Or even more. think if we look from the side, we have this guy here needs to be a bit bigger. Whole nose of the car down by a bit. Look better. Yes, I'm pleased with that. Now we have a very nice curvature. We can put these together. I really should make some scripts for this because I always end up doing it manually, and every time I tell myself that I need scripts for it. Bring back the curves, and now we can start working our way back again. At this point, the floor has become flat, so to make sure that it stays that way. We will bring these down and scale them out a bit. Great. We want to have to add some edges here to make that sharper, but we're going to do that in the next couple of segments. As we add segments, we're going to have to, or as I add segments, I'm going to have to go back and adjust the other ones, because it's gonna affect the way it smooths the mesh. In the end, I'm gonna go back and even out so that the polygons have a more even size, something like this. I do not like what this line looks like now, so I'm gonna have to adjust it a little bit. This needs to come down slightly. The other way to do it is go in and cut here, make it line up better. Make sure that we do the same thing to the other side. Looking very nude. Kind of happy at this point, and I think I am going to end it for now and continue next time. Thanks for following. See you. Bye bye.